You know, some people, they just have this way about them, right? They always seem to get what they want. Think about leaders, top negotiators, those huge influencers. It's not just charisma. Nope. They're actually using some really powerful psychological tools. And today, we're going to break down 5 of the big ones.
So, what if you could do that? I mean, what if you could really influence any decision, any emotion, even someone's thoughts? Imagine having that kind of insight into what makes people tick, guiding things everywhere from a big meeting at work to, your own personal life.
Now, this isn't some kind of magic trick or mind-reading stuff. It's way more real than that. It's all pure psychology. These techniques are grounded in actual science, predictable patterns in how we all think and act. The best influencers, they've just learned how to spot these triggers and, well, use them. Okay, before we dive in, a really important heads up. We're talking about this stuff for educational purposes only. The whole point is to understand how these methods work, not to go out and manipulate people. Seriously, this is powerful knowledge, and with that comes a big responsibility to use it ethically. So let's be smart about it. All right, let's get into it. Kicking off our countdown at number 5, we have something called the reverse trap. This whole trick plays on a really fascinating psychological principle known as reactance. Basically, it's that stubborn little voice inside all of us that screams when someone tells us we can't do something. When we feel like our freedom's being challenged, our first instinct is to push back. We just can't help but want what we're told we can't have.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, it's a simple 3-step process. First, you state some kind of prohibition, or you plant a seed of doubt, like, oh, you probably can't do this. That immediately pokes at their ego, right? And what happens next? They get this overwhelming urge to prove you wrong. And just like that, they end up doing the exact thing you wanted them to do from the start.
Let's use a real-world example. Say you need a friend's help with something. Instead of just asking for a favor, which is easy to say no to, you could say something like, hey, I've got this thing I'm working on, but never mind, it's actually pretty complicated. I'm not sure you'd be able to handle it. See what you did there? You didn't ask. You challenged them. And that little challenge taps right into that deep-seated need we all have to prove we're capable. Okay, moving on to trick number 4. We're calling this one Master of Choice. The big idea here is that true influence isn't about forcing someone's hand. No, it's way more subtle. It's about how you frame the choices you give them. This all comes down to a psychological concept called the framing effect. Think about it. Nobody likes being told exactly what to do. We push back. But at the same time, having too many options can be totally overwhelming. So by offering a limited, controlled choice, you're basically giving them an easy, pre-approved path. Their ego feels satisfied because they made the decision, but you guided them right where you wanted them to go. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. On one hand, you have want to go out? That's a simple yes or no. The door is wide open for them to say nah. But look at the high influence side, Pizza Hut or Domino's. The question is no longer if you're going out, it's where you're going. The end result is you're getting pizza, but they feel completely in control because they picked the place. All right, coming in at number 3, and this one is really powerful and honestly can be a little dangerous if not handled carefully. It's the guilt trap. Guilt is one of the most powerful human emotions, and it can be used as a lever to get people to change what they're doing, all without you ever having to confront them directly. I mean, think about it. If you try to force someone to do something, what happens? They just dig their heels in, they resist. But when a person feels guilty, the pressure isn't coming from you. It's coming from inside them. And that internal need to fix things, to make it right, makes them way more likely to change their behavior all by themselves. So let's say you have that one friend who is always canceling plans. Instead of blowing up at them, imagine you say something like, hey, I get it. I understand. If I were more important, you'd probably make time. Oof. See? It's not a direct attack. It's like you're holding up an emotional mirror, making them look at their own actions. And that creates this really powerful internal drive to make it up to you. Okay, our number 2 trick is called the emotional hijack, and this one taps into a fundamental, almost uncomfortable truth about all of us. We are not as logical as we think. Most of our decisions are driven by feelings first, and then we use logic to back them up later. Yeah, we all like to picture ourselves as these rational beings, making pro-con lists and carefully weighing all the facts. But the honest-to-goodness reality, emotion gets there first, and it often has the final say. It's pretty simple.
Whoever can control the emotion in the room usually ends up controlling the final decision.
You see this all the time in politics, right? A great political speech isn't just a list of facts and policies. It's crafted to make you feel something: fear, hope, anger, pride. They're trying to create an emotional connection. And once voters are hooked on that feeling, the nitty-gritty logic and facts, well, they tend to take a back seat. People vote for the feeling. And here we are, the number one trick, the most powerful of them all. And it's probably not what you expect. It's the power of silence. We live in such a noisy world. We're constantly talking, and we think that the person who talks the most or the loudest is the one in charge. But the truth is, real power, real control, often comes from saying nothing at all. Just watch. See that? That little bit of quiet? It probably felt a little weird, a little uncomfortable. It creates this vacuum, and our brains just hate a vacuum. We scramble to fill it with words, with thoughts. And right there, in that discomfort, that's where the power is. So when you're in a tense conversation and you just go quiet, all of that pressure you were feeling, it transfers directly to the other person. They're the ones who start to feel anxious. They start second-guessing themselves, wondering what they said wrong, and often they'll start talking just to break that awful silence. And that's when they might reveal way more than they ever meant to. All the while, you just look cool, calm, and completely in control. Here's the master-level move. Imagine you look someone in the eye and you say something vague but powerful, like, "I know everything." And then you just stay silent. You don't say another word. Their mind is going to go into overdrive, spinning out of control, trying to figure out what you could possibly know. Their own anxiety will basically do all the work for you, and you'd be amazed what people will admit to when they're in that state. So let's do a quick recap. We've got the reverse trap, where telling someone they can't do something makes them want to do it. The master of choice, where you guide the decision by framing the options. The guilt trap and emotional hijack, which both leverage feelings over facts. And finally, the ultimate tool, the power of silence, where saying nothing gives you all the control. Look, knowing these tools gives you a huge advantage in understanding how people work. It gives you a deeper insight into almost every human interaction. But it also brings up a really big, critical question. Where do you draw the line? When does being a skillful influencer cross over into just being a manipulative person? That's definitely something to think about.